I'm just gonna keep walking while I chew this.
Hey guys, I am here with Treyarch studio co-head Jason Blundell, no stranger to PlayStation, that's for sure. Thanks for joining us, Jason.
Hey Sid, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. So you have been kind enough to give us all a sneak peek here at what you've been working on. It's an exclusive first look at the new Black Ops 3 Zombies Chronicles.
Yep.
Kind of a greatest hits collection of some of the best work Treyarch's done over the years. It's coming first to PS4 on May 16. So thank you for stopping by.
No problem at all. Yeah, it's. I mean, we're looking at Nact here on the screen, and obviously this is where it all began, right? Back in World at War, it started off as a kind of a simple kind of Easter egg, if you will, at the end of completing the campaign. And it's kind of been a classic, so it had to be in the Zombie kind of Chronicles pack. And what we did is went back and lovingly remastered the whole thing, you know, the lighting, the textures, the models, the AI, all these things got kind of changed around. So not only is it a kind of, you know, you're obviously kind of experiencing that original realization of zombies, but it's also kind of brought up to date with the modern kind of power of the PS4.
No, this is great. I mean, this is just like an incredible, like, just walk down memory lane. I remember digging into this in actually Call of Duty World at War, which Treyarch obviously worked on. Great game, and I was absolutely fascinated by this mode. But it looks like you guys have done a lot more than just kind of like an up-res on this, right? I mean, tell us a little bit about how deep into this you guys got, kind of recreating these.
Yeah, I've kind of mentioned it in a couple of interviews, but it's worth noting, which is some people out there in the world will probably think, oh, you just kind of import the mesh in and then up-res the textures. That's absolutely not the case. You have to build the thing from scratch because the technology's changed so radically. The packages we use, the techniques we use. You could kind of bring a skeleton in, but to be honest, to kind of get the full power out of this and to re-realize it, we built it from scratch. So every single one of these maps is, apart from the design part, which we obviously inherited, is a full rebuild and full reimagining. And then on top of that, obviously, bringing in things like the Black Ops 3 weapons and then also the kind of gobblegum system into each one of the maps. And for maps that didn't have perks, you know, bringing the Wonder Fizz in to kind of give access to those perks again. But it was the whole primary kind of purpose was to keep the essence, keep the passion, the drive, the design from the original maps, but again, just bring it up to speed with modern day technology.
And it looks incredible, too. And I got to point out this map, Verrucht, I think I'm saying it right. This map, I remember when this came out, this was the first DLC map pack for Zombies in World at War. This was a huge moment in my life. Me and my friends were all really obsessed with the first map, which we just got done seeing. This map changed everything, and I think made me a lifelong fan of what you guys do at Treyarch.
So, and Verrucht's very interesting because at the time it was, and still is, right, known for its kind of scariness, right, known for its mood and kind of creepy mood. It was one of the first maps as well where we separated up the player characters, so when you start, you don't all start together. But, you know, fast forward now to Zombie Chronicles, what we could then do is completely remaster all of the sounds and all of the atmosphere. You have, you know, more channels now, higher resolution. So that kind of creepiness and eeriness can go even further to the point where as you're walking along, you'll hear the grass, you know, the glass breaking underfoot and so forth. Really just kind of pulls you into that disturbia that we were trying to achieve with Verrucht.
Yeah, speaking of creepy, I mean, I remember this is Shino Numa. This is another really important map in Zombies, and this is still very early in Treyarch's career in making these maps. I think this is only the third of the maps, obviously included here in the Chronicles collection coming out on PS4. But this is where you guys, I feel like you started to really spread your wings. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this was kind of a fun one because it set some kind of great storyline stuff up with Peter McCain being hanging from the rafters, and that obviously got expanded into the Black Ops 3 season. But it also was the introduction of the dogs as well, I believe, as well. The Hellhounds got introduced here.
Yep.
Which is a very different style of enemy. And this was, I think it was DLC 2 for kind of World at War. It was fantastic, right? It was the ability to kind of go and start putting foliage around, put you in a different kind of location. And, you know, if you remember way back at World at War, you know, the foliage had to be limited, the lighting effects had to be limited, you know, because of, you know, how much alpha and overdraw you're doing and so forth. So
Sure,
kind of
yeah.
coming back into kind of Chronicles, we can just really let rip now with the amount of lush foliage, the amount of movement, the atmosphere. You know, we can start kind of putting lighting effects and tinting effects to really kind of set that kind of swamp mood. And then on top of that as well, just kind of connecting it up with other stuff. So we introduced this kind of Division 9, which is kind of a group in the zombie storyline for a map called Zetsubo no Shima, which is in the Black Ops 3 season. It's supposed to be the same group, Division 9, who are involved here. And so there's just little touches, little things that kind of tie it all together and kind of connect it, not only gameplay-wise, but also thematically as well.
Yeah, I got to say, I mean, I'm kind of getting lost in the visuals here. I mean, it looks really, really awesome. I can't wait to play this. Yeah, you mentioned, like, you know, this is around the time. Oh, here we go. This is another classic one. This is a really great map. You guys really started digging into this mythos, and you were talking a little bit about that. But I feel like Kino der Toten. My German's terrible, if you haven't guessed. But this one, I remember thinking, okay, this is something totally different. This came out with Black Ops. Call of Duty Black Ops, terrific game, and again, you guys, it seemed like there was almost like a drive internal to Treyarch to just keep kind of one-upping yourselves again and again, and I feel like this map's a great example of that.
Absolutely. I mean, so the first map I worked on was in World at War was a map called Deriz, and we remade that for Black Ops 3 and called it the Giant and changed it narratively. But a fact that maybe not so many people know is that after Deriz for World at War, we had planned to do another pack, and we did. It was like a Paris map, and there was a one that's set on a coast, and there was also the cinema. And we never actually released that pack, but that's what Kino came from, and Call of the Dead came from the coast one, and the Paris map essentially turned into Moon, which is another map we'll see a little bit later on. So nothing's ever wasted here at Treyarch. We always use stuff, but ideas will grow and kind of change as they move along. So it was great to see, you know, some of the foundations set down, and obviously then that team kind of move it forward and make this map. And then again, this is another great map for lighting. You know, lots of kind of, you know, there's nice kind of natural light flooding into the spaces, then kind of artificial light, you know, single light sources. Because, you know, again, back in the day, we could only have kind of two primary light sources on a surface because we had what was called a forward renderer. Now in Black Ops 3, we have a thing called a deferred render, and that means you now got unlimited light sources. And hopefully that's something you'll see kind of present through the footage, is you can have multiple lights interfering, kind of moving in the space. And lighting really is the kind of key to suspense and the key to terror and horror. So every time, you know, that as that gets more powerful, we can re-realize it with kind of creepy and scary kind of effects.
Yeah, it's almost like seeing it through new eyes. I mean, these are, I think it's safe to say these are sort of the definitive editions of these maps. Looking great. And I got to tell you, Jason, I got a confession to make here. This is Ascension. I think I might have missed this one.
Oh, well, I don't want to spoil it for
know.
you then. This was,
I love zombies. I don't know. This one doesn't really ring a bell. Tell me a little bit about the setup on this one.
This is a big map. So this is where we started really introducing Easter eggs. So this was kind of the beginning of what has mutated over time into these huge kind of elaborate quests. But this was the beginning, very humble beginnings. And it also introduced about kind of characters, certain kind of key characters, you know, Gersh and Yuri and other kind of guys for the narrative people. They'd be very excited about that. But this is where a lot of that started rolling. And again, you know, because of the ambition of the map back in the day, things were quite simple, quite minimalist. You know, you couldn't have, as we're seeing the footage on screen here, you couldn't have a lot of the kind of crash pieces and kind of detail, because you just wouldn't be able to hit that kind of poly count. But nowadays we can really kind of flesh it out, and so that allows you to kind of get lost in this kind of, you know, Russian kind of cosmodrome vibe.
I mean, by this point in Treyarch's career, I mean, zombies had become this really defining, you know, project that you guys have been working on over the years. I mean, it must have just been really fun to be a part of the studio and just see this thing that, like you called out, kind of started as a side project in Call of Duty World at War, sort of blossom and turn into frankly a sensation. I mean, DLC sales, I know, were off the charts, and it's a huge success for you guys. So tell me a little bit about what that was like as you saw this sort of developing from the inside.
Yeah, it was really interesting because it was one of those modes where, regardless of whether you're working or not, because you've got to imagine, right, in a game developer, you're making it and then you're playing it, but you're playing it as part of your job, and so people take breaks from that. Zombies was probably one of the first modes where people would finish and then say, hey, let's play zombies through lunch, let's keep on, or kind of have little parties after kind of work and carry on playing it and kind of giving feedback. And there was a real buzz around the studio. And at the same time, as it started to grow in popularity and people were talking about it, we also, in this other kind of strange way, were saying, I hope not too many people look at this, because right now there's just this ultimate freedom, creative freedom. We were doing things like challenging the player, penalizing the player, doing gameplay that by normal Call of Duty rules is naughty, don't do that, right? So there was this kind of real attitude of like, I hope too many people don't see this, because they might take away all the fun. And because it started that way, and because we have a wonderful publisher with Activision, they kind of encouraged and allowed us to kind of keep growing and flowing, kind of going to new places, doing different things. And I think it's because it had that kind of Skunkworks kind of formation and kind of background that gave it that latitude and allowed us to kind of keep growing, keep moving it. And that's something that I'm very proud of, that going all the way up to Black Ops 3, that spirit and that mentality has never been lost. And if anything, has actually flourished more.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I love the original maps you guys did for Black Ops 3. This is the map with those damned monkeys, isn't it?
It is the one with the damn monkeys, yeah.
I hate those guys. Terrible.
It's and again,
outrageous.
In those early maps, there was a very cognizant, decision made to actively try and mess with the player. Something that we've kind of played with at different times during zombie development, but you'll notice some of the classic maps are deliberately set up to penalize you and to hurt you and frustrate you. And that has an appeal as well, funnily enough. Like having it...
It sure does.
You know what I mean? Like when you go into some of these maps, you don't always know what's about to happen next. And that no two playthroughs will pretty much be the same. That was part of the formula and the mentality when we were doing these kind of maps. Something that we settled down a little bit later to allow people to have a little bit more ease coming into the maps. But in the early maps, they were deliberately punishing. They were designed as such.
I mean, I loved every minute of it, right? So, and thematically, I think you guys at this point, this would have been a Black Ops 2 map, I believe. You guys are really starting to push the envelope. And speaking of pushing the envelope, this is Moon,
Yep.
Very famous map. Tell me a little bit about how this one came together. It's a huge departure stylistically.
Yeah, so like I was mentioning before, Moon, a lot of it's kind of, well, not a lot of it, but a fair amount of its inspiration came from that DLC 4 from World at War, the Paris map, where we had the idea of like no man's land and so forth. And some of those ideas kind of moved over to Moon, but creatively, again, very provocative, very different, right? You kind of come in here, the section we're looking at, if you don't put your spacesuit on, you die. It doesn't give you any kind of options. It's like, put the spacesuit on or you're dead, right? In the same way we have, the kind of astronaut walking around there, and he's brutal and kind of beats you up. And then this is also the beginning of what would turn into a bit of a tendency here at Treyarch, which was at the end of Moon, you blow up the Earth. Sorry, spoiler alert. But that was something that we kind of then moved forward. So if you look at like the end of Origins, again, we had these kind of end cutscene that was very provocative and kind of wound the community up. And that's very similar for, let's say, Revelations. So this was, I suppose, the beginning of the idea that we don't have to finish a season with a nice bow on top and everyone feeling happy. And actually, we find that kind of creates great conversation and passion in the community to talk about the narrative and where it's going, where it is, and all this kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, I've always pointed to Treyarch and the work you guys have been doing with zombies over the years as a great example of just sort of innovative narrative development. It's very nonlinear. It's tangled up in these Easter eggs and just sort of these each one of these levels, particularly by this point in the Treyarch pantheon of zombie levels. You guys are really just riddling these levels with secrets and Easter eggs. I mean, they're almost like it's like a Rubik's Cube that you put out there for the community to solve.
Well, it's crazy, right? Because we have our kind of top level Easter eggs that we want to put in, the big ones, the more involved ones. But the spirit of zombies was that our guys who build it, builders, scripters, engineers, artists, they were all kind of coming forward and saying, here's an Easter egg, here's an Easter egg. And actually half the challenge was whittling it down to the number. Because so many people were kind of suggesting things, and then we'd have to kind of rein it all in to make sure it's all telling a consistent narrative. However bonkers it is, it's a consistent narrative. But what a wonderful place to be, where you've actually got more options than you need, and you're actually trying to prune it down to make sure it's consistent. You know, normal game development's the opposite way around. You're looking to make sure you get all the right pieces in. This one, there's zombies mode in general. We have bountiful options, and it's about trying to pick the right ones.
It's fascinating stuff, and you guys have gotten really good over the years at just kind of getting secrets into the game. Tell me about some of the forms of code and cryptography you've used over the years for these maps.
Yeah, it's it's been so interesting because I won't go into all my secrets, but I'll say that, you know, we started putting ciphers in, and then we put kind of messages in textures, and then we'd have, you know, little hidden things you got to press X on at a certain point. There was a whole grade of Easter eggs that the community's so passionate. There's a whole grade of Easter eggs where I said, okay, well, I've got to assume that someone's going to be able to take apart all the code, load up all the geo on a PC, look at everything, and I still want Easter eggs that you can't just, by taking it apart, find them. And so we have these kind of different grades of Easter eggs, and by Origins, the kind of footage we're seeing on screen there, we really had these kind of multi-stage Easter eggs. There's the main one, the main quest. There are multiple like side quests, small quests, ciphers, and other techniques, I will say. But it really turned into this kind of multifaceted, multi-layered approach to hiding things and getting the community kind of working and talking.
Well, job well done there, I'd say. And Jason, really want to thank you for stopping by. Obviously, 8 big levels here in the Call of Duty Black Ops 3 Zombies Chronicles. It's coming out first on PS4, May 16th. Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.